Se encuentra a más de 15.000 kilómetros de distancia de su casa, Australia. Encerrado en un territorio, el de Ecuador, dentro de otro territorio, el Reino Unido. En un hogar que se ha convertido en su prisión. En este rincón de Londres, en la Embajada de Ecuador, se esconde el enemigo número 1 de Estados Unidos, Julian Assange. Dicen que la curiosidad es el aspecto emocional que engendra la exploración, la investigación y el aprendizaje. Pero todo se complica cuando los interrogantes se trasladan al futuro. Ahora se están abriendo nuevos horizontes y se anuncian cambios enormes. Todos somos conscientes de que estamos diciendo adiós a un mundo y que otro se está fraguando a gran velocidad. Si pudiéramos desplazar un enviado especial a ese futuro, ¿con qué nos encontraríamos? Por eso, con mi penúltima energía profesional, me propongo viajar a esa frontera para conocer y escuchar a quienes están diseñando el nuevo tiempo. Voy a dejar al descubierto mi bendita curiosidad para intentar desentrañar esa gran incógnita. ¿Cómo será el mundo cuando ya no esté? El futuro de la información está librando en estos tiempos una batalla trascendental. Internet se ha convertido en la sede del quinto poder, en el que se almacenan filtraciones, cables, documentos, archivos e informaciones encriptadas que circulan sin aparente control por la red. Julian Assange es actor muy principal en una partida decisiva de cuyo resultado dependen desde los secretos de los estados hasta la privacidad de las personas. Assange, entre la utopía de Internet como espacio de libertad y la distopía de Internet como espacio ocupado por el ojo vigilante del gran hermano.
Wars are a result of lies. The Vietnam War and the push for US involvement was a result of the Gulf of Tonkin incident. A lie.
Here, here.
The Iraq War famously is a result of lies. Wars in Somalia are a result of lies. The Second World War and the German invasion of Poland was a result of carefully constructed lies. And why one might think that that should lead us to a state of despair, it should lead us also to an optimistic understanding, because if wars can be started by lies, truth can be started, peace can be started by truth.
When I met Julian Assange in Belmarsh prison, let's be clear what Belmarsh is. It's a high security prison and the regime is brutal. It is absolutely brutal. In the last 3 months in Belmarsh, there's been 2 suicides and 1 murder. Julian himself locked up for 20 hours a day. And then when he meets his legal team, They take those hours off his normal, what they call association, so his free time when he can be out of the cell. He's applied, for example, to go to the gym, like other prisoners. And for weeks he's not been allowed to, and he still hasn't been allowed to either. It's the sort of regime that can push you to the edge. It's obviously had the effect on him. There's no doubt about that. He's used all sorts of strategies to make sure that he keeps as well as he possibly can. Obviously, he concentrates and focuses on preparing his case for the court. After 2 hours, I left that prison more convinced than ever before that this man, first of all, is innocent of the charges that have been brought against him. Secondly, that actually morally, he made the right decision. What Julian Assange and his colleagues did was to take the information that they were provided with.
Come on, fire!
And their moral judgment was that these are war crimes being perpetrated here.
Oh yeah, look at those dead bastards.
In our name, and that they wanted the world to know. So he performed a service for society globally, not just within our own country. He mustn't be extradited to the United States of America, because I don't believe that he'll get a fair trial, a fair hearing, and the risk therefore is he could spend the rest of his life in prison. Here we have the potential of the UK government rolling over to extradite someone, when at the same time the US government are refusing to extradite someone who we know is associated with an act that resulted in the loss of life for the Dunn family and needs proper investigation and, yes, if necessary, court action. The one thing you don't extradite people for is on political grounds, and that's what's happening with Julian Assange. But they want to send out a message to others, any other journalists, any other publishers, that this is what will happen to them as well if they dare to speak truth to power in the way that Julian Assange has. In any democracy, one of the key ingredients is to have a free and active media. And sometimes the media will annoy us. They'll tell us as politicians things we don't want to hear, or they'll expose things that we didn't want exposing. But that's what democracy is all about. And as soon as you undermine that right of journalists to report fairly and openly, well, you start undermining the basis of the democracy on which we rest our society. Information is coming out now which demonstrates the extent to which the US government in particular will go to try and silence him, including the risk to his life. The media has not been kind to Julian Assange in terms of the accurate and honest reporting of his case. What we need now above all else is noise about this case in every form that we can. Understand, this isn't about an individual. This is about the right to free speech, the right to whistleblow, the right to stand up against injustice. And if Assange is silenced, they can silence anyone. And they will. Please don't underestimate the importance of this case for the future of our democracy. Social media has been one of the few avenues that we've been able to use to get the truth out, both against the Assange case, but also what Assange was exposing. That's why I support organisations like Double Down News on Patreon. They need your support because they're an essential part of ensuring that we get the truth.
We need to bring the system back to those basic principles that are beyond left and right. They're what make us a free and fair society. Your right to know is what is being criminalized. We are all in Belmarsh prison as long as Julian is in Belmarsh prison.
The story about the plans to assassinate and kidnap Julian from London will be discussed in court today, so I urge you to stay tuned and follow the proceedings online. And I've seen some reports that the US government has denied these plans. In fact, the US government, the White House, refused to comment and referred reporters to the CIA, which also refused to comment. And Mike Pompeo, who is the CIA director, who was the architect of these plans to assassinate Julian and kidnap and rendition him from London, in fact, effectively confirmed them, because he called for the 30 sources who had spoken to the 3 investigators to be prosecuted. And the implication is they have violated the Espionage Act, and therefore, if there are grounds to prosecute them, that means that the news was true. And finally, the US Congress is investigating the CIA story. So it's not something that can be dismissed out of hand by claiming the US government has denied it, because they haven't. Pompeo has confirmed it, and the US Congress is investigating. And there are questions that need to be answered about what the UK government, what their involvement was in these plans. Because that story says that the UK government was informed and to a degree willing to go along with some of these plans. So which plans were they willing to go along with? There are talks about the UK authorities being the ones doing the shooting. What is going on here? We're talking about a journalist who took political asylum for fear of the political persecution that the US was taking against him, for fear of torture and inhumane and degrading treatment, for fear of being put in prison for the rest of his life.
When I was a cadet, what's the cadet motto at West Point? You will not lie, cheat, or steal, or tolerate those who do. I was the CIA director. We lied, we cheated, we stole. It was like we had entire training courses. It reminds you of the glory of the American experiment.